So, welcome everyone. Today we're talking with Josie, who is a certified diabetes educator, and we're talking about everything type 1 diabetes. And we'll cover everything from daily management to tips and tricks of how to manage your diabetes and the latest advancements in diabetes technology. So, with that, welcome Josie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my insights and hopefully empower people with type 1 diabetes.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What's the number one thing you wish more type 1s knew about managing their blood sugar?
I would say that they don't need to be perfect. You don't strive for perfection. We know that diabetes management is a 24/7 job and it's a constant balancing act. So there will be days where things don't go according to plan, highs and lows, and it's part of the journey. So focus on the big picture. Don't get discouraged. Look at the progress you're making over time. Make healthy choices most of the time, and remember that it's not about the perfection but the progress you're making, and that's really the key to living well with type 1 diabetes.
Awesome. That's great. Great tips. So, can you actually share a quick tip for handling low blood sugar, for example, when you're out and about?
The most crucial tip I have to give is always carry fast acting carbohydrate source with you no matter where you go. uh, Preferably glucose tablets, but it could be a small juice box or hard candy can work too. It could be your lifeline if your blood sugar unexpectedly drops. And when you do experience a low, remember that 15-15 rule. If your blood sugar is below 3.9, you consume 15 grams of fast acting carbs and wait 15 minutes and check your blood sugar again. If it's still low, then you repeat that process. So, most importantly, once your blood sugar gets back into your target range, remember to eat a meal. A sandwich that has some carbohydrates, some protein, to make sure that you can avoid this low again, within the next few hours. So, and most importantly, remember, ask for help if you need it. Tell someone you have diabetes, you need some sugar. Maybe wearing a medical alert bracelet can help. And I think that would be a good idea as well.
Okay, that's good. So 15-15 rule. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to food swap. So, it's kind of an interesting topic. What's a simple food swap that people can make, that our audience can make to help with blood sugar control?
Hmm. I think one of the simplest and most impactful is ditching sugary drinks, right? Like soda, sweetened iced tea, juices. Sometimes it seems healthy, but they do contain a lot of sugar. So, 1 cup of some of the juices and sodas contain as much sugar as 3 Oreos.
Wow.
So, instead, reach for water. It's refreshing, zero impacts your blood sugar. And if you don't like water, there's flavored waters that don't have any sugar, bubbly water that doesn't have any sugar that you can choose instead.
Okay. Yeah, I got a little machine at home, a little soda stream, I guess. Okay, so there's a lot of myths that are out there when it comes to type 1 diabetes. So, what is the biggest myth about type 1 diabetes that you would like to bust?
Mm. One of the most persistent and frustrating myths is the belief that type 1 diabetes is caused by eating too much sugar. It's simply not true. And it can be hurtful to people that live with diabetes because that's not true and that's not how they came to have it. So it's actually an autoimmune disease. And so the body's immune system is mistakenly attacking cells in your body, in your pancreas that produce insulin, although there may be some genetic factors as well. So we don't really understand why this happens. Uh, there's also type 2 diabetes, which often is associated with some lifestyle factors. But even there, it's not just about diet and exercise. It could be a complex condition with many risk factors. And it's not simply just because someone has poor lifestyle choices or eats too much sugar. So it's really important to understand these aspects of diabetes type 1 and type 2 to show your support and education for people, show that you have compassion and you want to support people with that condition.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about some food swaps, some myths. Um, there's a lot of advancements that are happening in technology, and I'm a nurse. I've worked at a few units, and I always see the older adults that are poking their fingers, and we have CGMs now, so What's a new technology or development in type 1 diabetes that excites you?
I'm incredibly excited about advancements in insulin pumps and what they call a closed loop system. So some people call it even an artificial pancreas. So it's taking the place of that pancreas not working properly. It's truly a game changing thing for people with type 1 diabetes, especially if you consider that some still are pricking their finger and using older methods like insulin injection. So what a closed system is, a closed loop system, is it takes your reading from your continuous glucose monitor and it tells your insulin pump what your glucose levels are. And then the information is used to develop what the dose of insulin should be.
Mm.
And so there's an algorithm in the pump that can calculate your insulin dose. And it really, the user has minimal input. They just have to approve that dose. So all the tough work is done for you. And it's monitoring you all the time. So you don't have to worry about times when you're exercising, sleeping, etc. So it's making a huge difference in people's lives and can reduce the risk of low blood sugar because of that continuous monitoring. I think it would give people a lot of freedom uh, to do what they love and have their diabetes managed at the same time.
To address the newly diagnosed type 1 individuals with diabetes, we shouldn't say diabetics anymore, but what is your advice for someone who was newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and feeling overwhelmed? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to say it's normal to feel overwhelmed, scared, maybe angry that, why me? Why do I have type 1 diabetes? You might be having a lot of emotions at that time, and it's okay. But you're not alone in this. I mean, there's a vast and incredible supportive community of people with type 1 diabetes who can relate and who felt those emotions, and they're there to support you. My advice would really be to reach out to that community, connect with others in type 1 diabetes community. Uh, Connected in Motion, for example, does some great work with slipstream events.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you to connect with other people that are going through the same struggles potentially. Uh, don't feel afraid to lean on your loved ones and your friends. They might want to support you, but they don't know how. So you just need to ask, be honest about how you're feeling, and look for someone to help you out.
Yeah, it takes time and patience, and nothing, especially with a new diagnosis, it takes a while to get adjusted. I had a friend who just was diagnosed in 2020 in second year university, and it was a huge upheaval for him. So definitely those tips about connecting with community are important. So let's move on to something else that is top of mind for me, especially being in the healthcare field. How can the type 1 individual with type 1 diabetes better advocate for themselves in a healthcare setting?
Mm. Uh, well, it's really important. It's absolutely important and crucial to be able to advocate for yourself and be an active participant in your care. The key is to be informed, prepared, assertive. Uh, Keep yourself informed of all of your condition, of what's coming up, newest treatment, newest technology, latest advancements. And that knowledge empowers you to really ask the informed questions that can help make you decide, for your own care. So come prepared. Always go to your appointment with a list of your medications, your recent blood sugar logs, or the continuous glucose monitor data, and any concerns that you may have. Write them down before you go to the doctor's office. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't get rushed out of the office, and always ask for clarification if you don't understand, and be clear about your goals and your needs. So, do you want to try something new? Are you struggling with a specific aspect of your care? Make sure that you ask those questions to your healthcare provider. Also, sometimes it's necessary to ask for a second opinion if you're not sure. So, that's okay. You have the right to choose your healthcare provider, and it's really important to find a team that you can trust and you feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. What's something positive about the type 1 community that really inspires you?
Type 1 diabetes community is truly something special. Every day, I witness people with type 1 diabetes facing incredible challenges, the constant monitoring, insulin injections. They have fears of lows or highs. There's an emotional toll that it can take. But despite all of this, they continue to thrive. They pursue their dreams, they build their families and careers. They have resilience, and it's a resilience in the face of adversity that's nothing short of inspiring. Whether it's online forums or support groups or connecting with someone who understands, the Type 1 community does provide a safe haven for people that have the same experiences. They share tips, they celebrate their victories. So it's a really great place for advocacy and activism. They're not just surviving with type 1 diabetes. They're fighting for better access to care and affordable insulin and advancement in technology. So their collective voice is really making a difference in the world of diabetes. So it's really inspiring to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard of our campaign, our resilient campaign, and that's what it's all about. Strength comes from within, and we want to empower all the individuals with diabetes that are out there to have that strength to continue. Whether you're newly diagnosed or you've been around the block a few times, we're here. We're here to support you, and we'll work with you. Okay, so many people with type 1 diabetes experience burnout at some point or another. What advice do you have for someone who is struggling with diabetes burnout right now?
Mm. Uh, it's a real experience. It's quite valid. Sometimes you feel exhausted, frustrated, maybe resentful that you have to deal with the constant demands of type 1 diabetes, and you might feel overwhelmed. So give yourself permission to take a step back. It doesn't mean that you have to give up on managing your diabetes, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Uh, and prioritizing your mental health is really important. It's just as important as your physical well-being. So maybe take a break, get someone else to do some work for you, some of your chores, some of your tasks, and give yourself time to rest and relax. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So you don't have to be perfect all the time, and prioritize yourself sometimes.
That's really good advice. So, can you share a story about a patient who overcame a significant challenge related to their diabetes? What can others learn from their experience, when it comes to managing with that tough experience?
One patient who had type 1 diabetes really stands out to me. He had type 1 diabetes for many years and then seemed to be getting symptoms that really seemed like type 2 diabetes. So, a lot of insulin resistance. He was increasing his insulin dose and just kept going up and up. And so, there was a lot of resistance to the insulin, and he couldn't figure out why I need so much more insulin now when I haven't changed my diet or my activity, my physical activity. So it was very difficult for him. He expressed concern to his doctors, but it was difficult to understand what was happening. And we spoke on many occasions to get my advice. And really, the advice is to be persistent and keep advocating for yourself. So we spoke about options, and he took that to his doctor. And eventually was prescribed a medication that's different from anything that maybe some type 1 diabetes patients would be getting, but it worked and it helped. And so that constant advocating for himself and always, not giving up, even though some clinicians were not too sure if it was going to work, that was really inspiring to me. And it makes you realize that not everyone's journey is the same. So sometimes you have to just figure out a solution together as a team. And that's what happened. So he's doing really well now. And
That's good to hear.
yeah, something different that not everyone experiences, but it was really interesting.
So, it's not a one fix solution for everybody. You might have to do a little bit of exploring of different treatments, I guess. Okay. So, Josie, you're a CDE. Can anyone really become a CDE?
So CDE is a certified diabetes educator. So the requirements to become a CDE is first and foremost to be a registered healthcare professional. So some of my colleagues are also pharmacists, such as myself, and we have some nurses as well and dietitians that are CDEs as well. There are some studies that you have to accomplish, of course, and also some minimum amount of time in education for experience. And that could be any type of education, not just for diabetes patients, but like myself as a pharmacist, we do education in other aspects of healthcare as well, such as injection training and also asthma, medication administration. So all of that counts towards that certified diabetes educator.
Does this interview count as an hour for
Sure,
CDE
of
training?
course.
Okay. Yeah. So, we'll go on to our last question. How can a loved one who is supporting someone newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, uh, you know, support them both physically and emotionally?
I would say to start, educate yourself about this condition. Take that time to learn about the challenges they may be facing, the signs and symptoms of high and low blood sugar, so that you can respond in an emergency if that happens. So, this knowledge will not only empower you to provide practical help, but it shows that loved one that you really care and you want to understand their experience. You can offer any help, small, like helping them with meal planning, grocery shopping, carrying their diabetes supplies for them when you're out and about. Any small gesture, I think, would show that you're trying to ease that burden and show that you care.
That's a good point. I think all of us should be carrying around little kits for our loved ones. And so I just want to thank you, Josie. Thank you, audience, for joining us. And hopefully we'll have you on again for another couple of questions.
Thanks for having me.